Hey there guys, how's it going? My name is Sumedh Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means I help you feel better and perform better. Guys, it's like been what, day 3, day 4 without internet, no Wi-Fi. I think I'm going slightly crazy.
Don't you quit on me!
But that's only because I'm going inwards more. I feel whenever we go inwards, whenever we get much more inside of our own heads, we start to see reality is very distorted than what it actually is.
Quick question, when is spring break?
I don't know if you guys have noticed this as well. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about how we are all projectors, how we are a mirror in our lives.
Road work ahead? Yeah, I sure hope it does.
Oftentimes when we get triggered at something, you'll start to notice it's because other person has something to do with us. That's the reason why we get triggered in the first place.
You are Cookie Monster.
You know, one thing that I do when I think that I'm judging somebody else is I pause, I stop and I say, just like me, right afterwards. That person's shoes are stupid.
Just like mine.
That person is so bizarre.
Just like me.
That person thinks they're so full of themselves.
Just like me.
You see, it just shatters your ego, and it shatters that disbelief of like, this person is any different than I am. Yeah, I'm full of myself at times too, right? I wear a stupid shirt just like that as well. And so it just shatters that ego a little bit, and that really helps. If you want to use that technique, feel free to do that. It's really fun. We might notice a past version of us in them. We might notice a little aspect of ourselves in that other person. Whatever it is, it might remind us something to do with ourselves, and that's the reason we get annoyed. That's the reason why we get triggered.
Stop! I could have dropped my croissant!
This is really important to note, because mirrors help us to understand ourselves. And so everybody else is a grand mirror in our own lives. And this comes from the idea of the looking glass self. Now, I want to go against this idea of the looking glass self. I believe that we can then interpret what this means to ourselves. What I mean by this is, let's say that somebody's calling us lazy. We have a choice whether we accept that belief from them or not.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
I understand that a lot of it is unconscious, and that we're like hardware from 0 to 7 years old, and we've got to sort of engineer our consciousness in this day and age right now in order for us to thrive. The first things first is like noticing those beliefs are not us. Okay, they're just the expired hardware. They're like expired milk, right? There's no use for those beliefs anymore. When we get really annoyed at somebody, or they upset us in some way.
Every time you yell at your kids, put a quarter in your no yelling sock and soon you'll have a weapon.
What does that say about ourselves? Right? So if I said, you have green hair, and you were like,
What? What are you talking about? I don't have green hair.
right? You won't react to it. But if you did have green hair, you would feel a need to react to it. No! You see what I'm saying? So if it's not true about you, there's no need for you to react to that thing. And if it's slightly true about you, you feel the need to react to it. The word reaction itself, I mean, it's unconscious, right? It's like an impulse. It's just a feeling that we go with. Jim Quick says it very amazingly. We're not thermometers, we're thermostats, meaning that we can actually hold ourselves to a specific standard and have the environment change around us. It's not that we always have to react to the environment. What we think is we're always at the effect of our environment. We're always reacting to whatever is happening. But it is in fact the opposite. We can decide how we wish to respond and not react. We can choose the standard that we have for the environment. Once we keep coming back from that standard, we're going to create a certain kind of habit, and that habit will override whatever patterns we've had in the past. But we've got to go on the journey of pushing ourselves to change our habits and break those patterns. That isn't very easy, because it'll be like a pendulum at sometimes. We'll be going forwards, going backwards, going forwards, going backwards. You may see that as a bad thing, but you also do that when you're dancing the cha-cha, right? So it's like a dance, right? It's like a chaotic dance, which we have to enjoy it. It's enjoying the chaos, it's being comfortable in the chaos. Another thing that we've got to notice is making assumptions about what others think about us. You see what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if we try to get in touch with somebody that we like and they don't respond, we can automatically assume in our minds that it's because they think that we are undesirable, and then we make that belief about ourselves, not even thinking about it, right? It's very unconscious, it's very somatosensory, and it's in the background. And now it changes the way that we think about ourselves. See, then we feel things like shame and guilt. Shame in the fact that we're in our doing, and then guilt in the sense of our being. It's important to note that with meditation, with a lot of these practices, you can have a delay time in between your reactions, which is really great. So if you actually start a meditation practice, you can actually stop projecting a lot of things because you have that delay time to think it through, to think it over. Scientifically, this mirror thing happens through mirror neurons. Okay, I'm sure if you've studied any psychology or science in the past, you've heard of this term, mirror neurons. If we see an image of somebody getting hurt on video, the same neurons in our brain are firing. That's why we feel a deep empathy for them, or we go ooh, or we react like that, because we ourselves feel like the person in the video. It's important to note that, right? Because do we want to keep watching graphic images and representations of things? We're actually flooding our brain with these violent images.
Oh my God! Oh jeez! Oh my God!
That's actually rewiring our brains towards being desensitized to that. Or we're desensitizing ourselves by watching all of these graphic images. But it's also filling us full of cortisol, the fight or flight, hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. So it's important to notice what you're consuming. What you're consuming is very different to how you are educating yourself. I agree there's a fine line between that. Consumption and education. But you want to ask yourself, like, is what I'm consuming right now actually helping me forward in my life path or my life journey? If you accept yourself, if you love yourself, others will love you and accept you. It works the other way too. So actually do the inner work. Focus on loving yourself, respecting yourself, holding yourself accountable, patting yourself on the back like a friend would. If you are your best friend, you will start to make best friends. If you are your own best friend, you will start to make best friends.
Hey, I don't really.
Come on.
Okay, you talked me into it.
If you are not your own best friend, you'll start to make enemies.
Get out of here, kid! Game over!
This is very simplified. Sounds a little bit reductionist, but hear me out here. This is actually how our brain is processing this. If we feel unworthy, how are other people going to see us as worthy?
Look at the cute little kitty and the lizard. They're friends. Jesus Christ!
It just doesn't make sense, right? There's no kind of correlation there. So first and foremost, you've got to do that inner work yourself. You've got to step into the playing field of doing that inner work. If you're not even in the kitchen cooking, how are you going to put all the ingredients together and cook? You see what I'm saying? You've got to actually put yourself in a momentum and an action of doing the thing. Then once you are there, then you can really figure out, like, what are the next pieces, what are the next steps, how am I going to add a spice or flavor to this. Then you can actually get much more in-depth and like change the ingredients if you like, and improvise and add your own spice to it.
Add 2 Starburst, add baking soda, add peroxide, add dish soap, magic.
That's the later step. But if we're using this cooking analogy and you're not even in the kitchen,
How do I have mouse out of the club? He can't even get in.
like and you're using like some kind of frying pan in the middle of the street using the sun's rays to cook with or something like that.
Did you press the fresh vodka?
Thing called free shavakadu.
Let's be honest, if you don't have all the pieces together and all the ingredients, it's not going to be a very nice omelet, right? It's just not. It's going to be just some improvised pile of muck. And that's what keeps happening. It's what keeps happening in your reality because you're not willing to put all the pieces together. The pieces are there. Now it's about you integrating it, combining it, and that integration process has to come from within you so that you don't have a broken mirror. If you don't have a broken mirror and all the pieces are connected together and you see these experiences happening around you, now you know how to control the mirror within so that it broadcasts itself outwards. Control that mirror internally so that you can set the trend of setting the mirror externally. There's so much we can control, but then there are also things we can't control. We can't control the weather. As much as we try to like do some kind of weird rain dance and try to manipulate things around us, there's certain things we can't control, and one of those things is we can't control people's reactions. While we can't control people's reactions to us, we can influence them, we can do what we can, say what we need to say at that time, but it's up to them to make that change.
You gonna work hard? So yes, sir. You gonna be committed? So yes, sir. Gonna jump down that hole? I don't know, Captain. I just got these J's. They fresh out the box.
And all you can do is just nudge them and guide them. You can't get somebody to change for you, right? You can't keep doing their homework for them, okay? Even if you're a business owner, you have clients, you can't do the work for them. They're going to have to step into the ring at times. It's your job to just nudge them in the right direction. So with that, I want to leave you pondering a little bit about this idea of a mirror. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. Let's step into this playing field together. And when we can do that, we can leave this world a much brighter place than it already is. Have an amazing day. May the flow be with you, and stay legend.